Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back and we are in the Flint. So let's get our first look at the Flint, shall we? Norman Scott is our commander. As you guys should know by now, we've got Isoroku Yamamoto. Instead of Charles Madden though, I've swapped him for William Tennant in this case because Citadel is a real problem in this ship. We've got Beyond Range, we've got Igniter, we've got Punch Through, and we've got Fixated. And then we use the refill station for the extra reload. If you go to the actual ship, you'll see that we've got Aiming Systems Mod 1, we've got Steering Gears Mod 2, and we have Concealment System Mod 1. Now, if we go to Loadout, you'll see that there's something interesting about this American cruiser. It has torpedoes, which, just like the Atlanta, except it has 9.2 kilometer torpedoes that only travel 55 knots. So, yeah, not preferable, but at the same time, having that extra range comes in handy, especially for oddball torpedoes, when you just throw a torpedo out there and let, fate decide if somebody runs into them. It does come in handy for that. But they're so slow that if you just try to launch on a regular person, they're probably going to be able to miss them because it takes so long for them to get to your target. Now, that being said, you get smoke. And yeah, it's a long duration smoke, 120 seconds of smoke. And yeah, it's not bad. I've got my commander or my community contributor flag, and if we look at the stats, we've got 26,600 health, which is less than the Atlanta. It has 127 millimeter guns, but it only has 12 of them instead of 16. And the reason it does that is because it's supposed to have extra AA, which I believe were 40 millimeter Bofors cannons mounted to it, which is why they dropped 4 of the main guns, which is just 2 turrets on the side. They're twin turrets, so it dropped 2 of them on each side, or 1 of them on each side, which is 2 guns, and it lost 4 guns in the process. However, still very good guns. They reload every 4.8 seconds with this build. They turn 180 degrees in 7.2 seconds. You don't have to worry about these turrets getting falling behind. They will be able to track whatever you're shooting at, no matter what range and how fast. Maximum HE shell damage 1800, not great, but chance to set on fire 8%, also not great. AP shell damage to 2268, not great. But they're 127 millimeter destroyer guns, so what can you expect? Torpedoes, 533 millimeter guns, or 533 millimeter torpedoes that pack a wallop if you hit something. 9.2 kilometers the range, as I talked about. I believe these are the torpedoes you get on the Benson when it first gets upgraded to the 9.2s. But I think the Bensons actually travel a little faster. I think they're 60 knots by base. But anyway, maximum speed 32.5 knots, which is right there with the rest of the American Navy, because, that's how fast the aircraft carriers went, so that's how fast everything needed to be. Turning circle radius 610 meters, and the rudder shift time is basically non-existent at 6.7. You don't have to worry about rudder shift too much in this, which goes right back to the whole steering gears mod. You could change that if you want, but the American cruisers definitely need the help. Now, the turning circle's not great, so keep that in mind. Concealment. Detectability by sea is 10.3. That's pretty decent for a cruiser. Detectability by air 6.4. Guaranteed detectability range is 2. And detectability while firing from smoke is 5.2. If you go to overview, we've got reloader, above average main battery reload time, obviously. And then sure shot. Now, this is the part that I disagree with. Sure shot is not my definition of what this thing is, okay? Just like the Atlanta, this thing shoots the round straight to the moon. So if you're at any sort of range, it is absolutely abysmal trying to hit targets. Now, it's got modest guns is the downside, obviously. The low caliber 127 millimeter guns don't hit very hard, so keep that in mind. They will shatter and they will bounce off of a lot of targets that have armor. Now, the Flint, this ship belonged to a series of cruisers with powerful dual-purpose guns. The major difference from the lead ship was her short-range AA armament, which had been improved at the expense of fewer main guns. She entered service in 1944, and there were 11 ships built. So, let's take a look at her. Now, first of all, I don't really care for the camo. If it was all white, that's one thing, but this stenciled in flames, maybe that's an actual, like, camo that the U.S. military uses, but I don't know. I don't feel like it is. I feel like somebody got a little lazy with this camo. It's just my personal opinion. You know, take it with a grain of salt. She is a good-looking ship, as most of the United States Navy vessels are. They just have good lines. I like them. And with this iconic pyramid scale, like, I love the pyramided guns, man. The super firing turrets that all are able to fire over one another. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. So, without further ado, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we are on Crash Zone, and we're going to take our first look at this ship. Now, I'll be real honest. It's not necessarily something I would go out and pick up. Like, if you like meme ships, then this is for you. I prefer the Atlanta over this. Now, some people might call me crazy. Maybe it's just the, you know, I feel like I am better in the Atlanta in every single way. I've had some really good games in the Atlanta. This thing just feels like it doesn't work for me. And I'll go over that. I feel like the shots themselves are different than the Atlanta. And I think that'll kind of play out here in a little bit. Hopefully you'll get to see that. Now, I'll be real honest, this video isn't about the damage aspect of this ship. There is possible damage out there for this thing, especially if you can get in a position behind a good island, because if you can rain hell on people, you're going to have a good game. This thing, just like the Atlanta, is the quintessential fire starter. You don't shoot AP out of this thing unless you have a perfect broadside on something very close. Every other time you're going to be shooting HE, and you are going to be just sending shells straight to the moon. Now, because you're sending shells straight to the moon, and when I say straight to the moon, I mean it. These things have the dumbest firing angles I've ever seen. Anybody who's ever been attacked by an Atlanta while you're hugging a mountain, like, you know what I'm talking about. Those rounds literally come in from freaking space. And they can and will set you on fire. It's obnoxious. But we're not going to really get to showcase that too much in this game. I wanted to, but unfortunately it's just not going to be a thing. I play this pretty passively early on. You'll see that I see a King George out there. I was initially asking my battleships to help, and then it looked like they were running away, but they're actually coming up closer. They're just sticking close to the islands, which is fine as long as I get some help, because this ship is not carry capable. Well, what do you mean by that, Spurt? I mean, it's literally not able to carry anything. If this thing gets targeted, it dies. That's how that works. So the best opportunity for this ship is to just not get yourself targeted. Now, you'll see here, I just go ahead and throw this out here. 9.2 kilometer torpedoes. You've got a spread of 4 of them, which I like the 4 torpedoes. 5 just seems a little bit weird. 4, there always seems to be a nice grouping. 3 always spreads out too much at range. So I like 4 torpedo spreads. Maybe I'm just weird, but they just seem to work better for me overall. And you'll see the King George is behind the smoke. I go ahead and throw my shot out there, knowing I wouldn't get detected. Their Yadachi is the one that's here. And funnily enough, those torpedoes I just sent out there are gonna land. That Yadachi's gonna run right into those slow freaking torpedoes after I get asked for help. He's like, "Can you shoot the Yadachi?" And I was like, "Affirmative." And he dies. It's like, well, that works. I don't have to worry about shooting him, but I do have to worry about his torpedoes, because he clearly wanted me gone. And taking even one of these is almost certain death for me. Remember, the Yadachi's torpedoes have the potential to do 22,000 damage each. I have 26,000 health. Can't be taking torpedoes. So you're going to see me here, the King George about to come out of the smoke screen, or at least he's firing in the smoke screen. He's trying to utilize the smoke screen. And because he's a battleship firing from a smoke screen, everybody sees him the moment he lights up, or the moment he fires his gun. Now we get 1 salvo into him, immediately set a fire. He's already been damaged heavily, so that fire's actually going to keep burning. And we're just trying to shoot at him. Now he fires his guns again, which means again he lights up. Now he's charging towards us, so we're going to put another round on him. And just as we get ready to finish him off, wait for it. Yep, somebody has to come in and finish him off for us. It's unfortunate. But we've got 19,000 damage already. Not a bad start. We're not alone, though. And I had no idea that there was another ship over here. Until I get detected. Now, there's nothing else out here that I can see, but there's an Atlanta to my left, which means we get an up-close and personal look at the Atlanta versus the Flint. Which is better? This battle should show you exactly which is better. Now, I switched to AP here because I'm expecting an Atlanta to be completely broadside onto me. And with 127mm guns, I should have no trouble citadeling the absolute snot out of it. Except, I have too much penetration. And that is a thing. And this ship is a destroyer. Make no mistake about it. The Atlanta and the Flint are destroyers. Treat them as such. You can absolutely citadel an Atlanta and a Flint with high explosive. It's much harder to get citadel hits with armor piercing. But it didn't stop me from trying. I figured with the 127mm guns, I would have a pretty good odds of catching him and citadeling him. And if you get caught by 12 or 15 or 16 guns broadside on, and they have armor piercing loaded in a cruiser, you're gonna die real quick. Because the amount of citadels that you can take in a single salvo is just insane. Now, notice that he radared me. I don't have radar. That's one advantage that he has over me. And that is one of the biggest advantages of the Atlanta, is that it has radar. And it's American radar, which is 30 seconds long, and it's 9 kilometers in detection. That's a huge advantage. But notice I try to throw him off. I'm like, okay, I'm going to head straight towards him, and then I'm going to come around him as soon as he loses detection. However, he's not sticking around waiting for me. And while he's broadside, I'm going to go ahead and try to punch him right in the mouth. But as you can see, we're getting 3 penetrations there. We get 5 overpins. We're up to 7. We're not getting enough damage as he punches us in the mouth with his high explosive. So that's why I say that this thing is basically a destroyer. HE wins this fight. And luckily for me, I'm not alone. Otherwise, this Atlanta definitely would have finished me off. Now, as you can see, Fletcher finishes off the Iowa, and that leaves me versus this Atlanta, and he has a decided health advantage. I'm down to literally destroyer health at this point, 12,000 health left, and he's got a little bit more than that. Just a little bit. He's probably got 20,000 health left. So, we're going to try to punch him in the mouth. We've got high explosive, not going to make the same mistake twice, right? So we get 5 penetrations with high explosive, dealing significant damage. I expected a return salvo, and then he turns and shoots at somebody else, so I was like, screw it, I'll go back to broadside. And he launched his torpedoes. Now here's the advantage of the Flint over the Atlanta. His torpedoes are garbage. 4.5 kilometer maximum range means that I knew that he couldn't hit me. But I was worried for a second. But as we punch him in the mouth, and we take a lot more in return, luckily the Tirpitz somehow manages to send out a prayer and hit the Atlanta one time to finish him off, leaving me with just 186 health left. So, why do I dislike the ship? I've played several games in it up to this point. I've had a couple decent games, 70, 80,000 damage games. It's just not my play style. You guys know I'm not really the fire starter. And unlike the Dallas and the Helena, it's just not good at getting in fights. You know what I'm saying? This thing takes citadels from everything. High explosive citadels it. If you catch it, angled, or God help you if you catch it catch it coming directly at you. You just overmatch it with everything and just shoot straight through the front of it, it seems like. I don't know how much bow armor there is on this thing. It's not a lot, because everything can shoot through it. I was literally burning everything down in the game that I got on 720p. I was into open water and doing really well. I'd already killed a Gneisenau, I killed a destroyer, and I was almost done killing a New Mexico. And the New Mexico, with one last dying breath, shot at me and managed to get 2 rounds that actually hit me while I was bow tanking. And here you'll see that I didn't realize I had completely lost my torpedo tubes on that side. So, unfortunately, couldn't launch torpedoes. But as you can see, those torpedoes are on their way. And this is what I'm talking about with these 9.2 kilometer torpedoes on an American cruiser. people don't expect it. And this Bismarck is about to find out the hard way that you have to start thinking about it. This isn't Atlanta. This has 9.2 kilometer torps, and they do pack a wallop. Wait for it. Yep, there you go. 11,650 damage done to that Bismarck with one torpedo hit, and there he goes. Now, the destroyer's going to get spotted way off in the distance. We didn't do much here. I know 62,000 damage, but if you fire at any sort of range, it takes like, I think at maximum range, it takes like 32 seconds for these shells to land as we launch here. These are having, what, 10.67 seconds it said it was going to take to get to the, like, 8-kilometer range. So you can really get a feel for just how slow these rounds are at getting to the target, which makes them incredibly inaccurate distance. But we get 2,000 base XP. We end up top of the leaderboard. I feel like it was a pretty adequate game to showcase the ship itself and showcase just how sneaky those torpedoes can be. They're so slow, but they're just long enough range that people forget that you have them, and they run into them quite a lot. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.